The words echoed through the empty hospital corridor so softly that they should have disappeared into the silence. Instead, they reached the one person who was never supposed to hear them. A billionaire who had built one of the country's largest healthcare companies froze in the middle of his steps as he stood hidden behind a corner. The exhausted young cleaner standing alone near the supply room had no idea that her whispered confession was about to change not only her own life, but also the heart of a man who believed money could solve every problem except loneliness. She lowered her head, wiped away a tear before anyone could see it, and whispered to herself that she needed a boyfriend tomorrow, or everything she had spent years protecting would fall apart. Before we continue this emotional journey, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. Every small act of support helps us bring more inspiring stories that remind us compassion can change lives. The hospital came alive before sunrise every morning. Nurses hurried through bright hallways, doctors prepared for another endless day, patients waited with silent hope, and visitors carried prayers hidden behind tired smiles. Yet among all the busy footsteps, there was one woman hardly anyone noticed. Emily arrived before dawn wearing her simple pink housekeeping uniform, tying her light brown hair into a loose ponytail before quietly pushing her cleaning cart from one hallway to another. She worked carefully, polishing every floor until it reflected the ceiling lights, wiping fingerprints from every window, arranging every waiting room chair so strangers could find a little comfort in difficult moments. Most people walked past her without learning her name. Some barely looked at her at all. To them she was simply another cleaner doing an invisible job. But every person who worked beside her knew something different. They knew that whenever someone cried in the waiting room, Emily somehow appeared with a tissue and a comforting smile. Whenever an elderly patient struggled to carry a bag, she was there before anyone else. Whenever a frightened child dropped a favorite toy, she would search every hallway until she found it. She never expected praise. She believed kindness was something that should be given freely, especially to people carrying burdens no one else could see. What nobody knew was that Emily herself carried a burden so heavy that every smile she offered someone else cost her a little more strength. 3 years earlier, life had looked completely different. Her father had suffered a severe stroke that left him unable to work. Medical bills consumed every dollar the family had saved. Her mother tried working double shifts at a small bakery until illness forced her to stop as well. Within months, Emily became the only steady income for her family. She gave up college without telling anyone how much it broke her heart. She accepted the cleaning job because it paid enough to cover rent, medicine, groceries, and the endless unexpected expenses that arrived whenever life already seemed impossible. Every paycheck disappeared almost before she held it in her hands. She learned to live without new clothes, vacations, birthdays, or dreams. Her greatest wish became seeing her parents smile without worrying about tomorrow. Despite everything, she never allowed bitterness to settle inside her heart. She believed that difficult seasons revealed a person's true character. Some people became angry. Others became generous. Emily chose generosity, even when she had almost nothing to give. Watching all of this from a distance over many months was the owner of the hospital network, Daniel Carter. Few employees recognized him because he rarely announced his visits. He preferred walking through his hospitals unnoticed, observing how people behaved when they thought nobody important was watching. His success had earned him enormous wealth, luxurious homes, expensive cars, and worldwide recognition. Business magazines called him a visionary. Investors admired his intelligence. Competitors respected his determination. Yet none of those achievements had filled the emptiness waiting for him every evening when he returned to another quiet mansion. Years before, Daniel had lost the woman he loved in a tragic accident. Since then, work became his only companion. He trusted numbers more than people because numbers never lied. Relationships, on the other hand, had often disappointed him. Too many people approached him because of his fortune instead of his character. Gradually, he built invisible walls around his heart so high that almost no one could reach him anymore. Still, there was something about Emily that quietly unsettled him. Every surprise inspection seemed to reveal another moment of quiet compassion. One morning she gave away her own lunch to a worried father who had not eaten in 2 days while staying beside his sick daughter. Another afternoon she patiently comforted an elderly woman who believed everyone had forgotten her. During Christmas week, Daniel reviewed security footage after hearing about anonymous gifts appearing in the pediatric ward. To his surprise, he discovered Emily buying small toys with her own money and secretly placing them beside children's beds before starting her shift. He couldn't understand why someone with so little continued giving so much. One rainy evening, long after most employees had gone home, Daniel stayed behind finishing paperwork. As he walked toward the underground parking area, he noticed a light still glowing near the housekeeping storage room. Curious, he slowed his pace. Through the slightly open door he saw Emily sitting alone on a small chair, holding an old family photograph in trembling hands. Tears rolled silently down her face. She didn't know anyone was nearby. After several long moments she took a deep breath, forced herself to smile through the tears, and whispered words that stopped Daniel where he stood. She said she needed a boyfriend tomorrow. The sentence sounded almost unbelievable. But the sadness behind it made it impossible to ignore. She continued speaking quietly to herself, unaware that every word reached the man standing outside. Tomorrow was her younger sister's engagement celebration in their hometown. Every relative would attend. For years, the family had endured endless criticism from distant relatives who judged people by appearances instead of character. They constantly mocked Emily for remaining single while sacrificing her life to support everyone else. This year the pressure had become unbearable. One particular aunt had promised to introduce her to wealthy men only if she admitted that she had wasted her youth working as a cleaner. Emily couldn't bear to watch her aging parents humiliated once again because of her choices. She didn't dream of romance. She didn't wish for luxury. She simply wished she could arrive with someone beside her so the whispers, insults, and cruel questions would finally stop, even if only for one evening. Daniel remained completely still. He had expected many secrets. He had never expected this one. For the first time in years, the billionaire found himself thinking not about profits, investments, or expansion plans, but about a woman whose greatest wish wasn't wealth, success, or comfort. It was protecting her parents from embarrassment. That single realization unsettled him more deeply than any business challenge ever had. He quietly walked away before she noticed him, but her whispered words refused to leave his mind. During the drive home, he replayed the scene over and over again. He remembered the tears in her eyes, the exhaustion on her face, and the quiet dignity with which she carried burdens no one else even knew existed. He had spent years believing that loneliness belonged only to people living inside large empty houses. That night he realized loneliness could exist just as painfully inside a tiny apartment filled with responsibilities and sacrifice. Unable to sleep, Daniel stared through the windows of his penthouse as rain covered the city below. Somewhere beyond the lights, Emily was probably worrying about tomorrow while wondering how to protect the people she loved. He had every resource imaginable, yet he couldn't stop thinking about one simple sentence whispered in an empty hallway. By sunrise, he had made a decision that felt completely irrational. He was going to help her. He just had no idea that the decision would change both of their lives forever.